So first up, we're actually going to look at one of the masters of story, and that's Pixar. I could have picked any character from any film, but I thought one that was very good at illustrating these points is Wall-E. So you can tell that Pixar didn't just say, hey, we need a robot that compacts trash, and somebody drew him up. Lots and lots of decisions were made about Wall-E that informed how we ended up. And lucky for us, we can see a part of that process from some of their concept art. So from an engineering point of view, it's clear that how he actually functions was a big component of building this character. Lots of exploration went into how he would get around, how he would move his arms, perform tasks, even blinking. And the blinking itself wasn't some arbitrary decision. It was Pixar trying to humanize Wall-E and make him relatable for us. Now, of course, his personality can come across in his behavior. He's a bit clumsy sometimes. He seems to express real, genuine feelings. And he does some very human things, just like collecting objects because he likes them. But his backstory is expressed in his physical appearance alone. The shape and tilt of his eyes make him look sad or vulnerable. His worn and dirty body is kind of telling of the work that he does and how long he's been doing it. Even the way he brings his hands together when he stands gives him a very shy appearance. And you typically wouldn't think of a robot as being shy. Again, Pixar are fantastic at conveying story, and fortunately for us, they have a lot to say on the matter. If you'd like to know more about how they breathe life into their characters, I would highly recommend this article. So next up, we're going to be looking at a piece by a good friend and great illustrator, Andrew Kolb. Where Pixar has an entire film to get across the personality and story of a character, Andrew often just has a single illustration to do so, and he does it very well. So in this piece, we can see the crew of Scooby-Doo playing a game of Clue, a fun enough concept on its own. But what I like to point out here is how the subtle details are really telling of not just the characters and how they're feeling, but also of just what's going on in the illustration. So Fred, who's in the white shirt, is getting a bit frustrated at not being able to solve the puzzle. Well, Velma, who's in the yellow, is very thoughtful and reserved. Daphne, who is in the purple, is a little more on the casual side, and we can kind of see that in the way that she's sitting. While Shaggy and Scooby-Doo, who I don't think I need to point out, are best friends, and that's why they're sitting next to each other. They're also the silliest, and that's why Shaggy is lying upside down. And their love of food is hinted at by all of the snacks that surround them. So coming back to the concept of asking yourself questions, Andrew shared with me 2 questions that were very helpful for the creation of this piece and many others he makes. They're now actually my favorite questions. So the first is, what happened before this illustration? And the second is, what will happen after this illustration? I encourage you all to check out Andrew's work on his website. Not only because he does story very well, but also he freely spoke to me at length on the matter while I was preparing for this class, and that kind of generosity really deserves attention. For the final example, we're actually going to go back in time a bit to one of my favorite paintings, which is Icarus and Daedalus by Anthony van Dyck. Paintings done by old masters are actually an excellent source for story. And that's because back then, much of the work that artists were commissioned for were to depict significant scenes from history, mythology, and religion. So you got a lot of meaning crammed into a single painting. For people who are not familiar with the tale of Icarus from Greek mythology, Daedalus here created a set of wings from wax and feathers for his son Icarus and himself to escape a maze that they'd been banished to. Now Daedalus cautioned Icarus to follow him in flight by not flying too high or too low. If he flew too high, the sun would melt the wax and he would fall. If he flew too low, waves from the ocean would wash off the feathers and he would fall as well. So by pointing the hands of Daedalus and Icarus in this painting, Van Dyck was able to get across that significant part of the story in just a still image. If you're hungry for more samples of story brought to character, I would recommend looking at the work of concept artists, checking out Renaissance paintings, as well as books and film. That being said, one of the best places to find this kind of inspiration is just to look at the stuff that you like. So if, like me, you really like video games, you can look there because there is a lot of story that goes into the development of those characters.